Deion to Dallas. Will it happen? Would it work?
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Salee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Tuesday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. I'm Barrett Salee. You can follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, all those places at Barrett Salee. 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 L's, and 2 E's. We're going to have a big show today. We're going to talk a little bit more about Dabo Swinney, who is changing for the better and might bring Clemson back. How's he going to do it? We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. Miami coach Mario Cristobal going on the offensive with some criticism that came his way after the Pop Tarts Bowl. And of course, we will talk about the guy who is as polarizing, if not more polarizing, than Notre Dame in the national championship. And of course, that is Deion Sanders, the head coach at Colorado, at least for now. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's right. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so the NFL silly season it's always fascinating to me because all of the things we dealt with in December in the college coaching silly season sort of get spun back up, right? That dust comes back and all of the names we used to hear about sort of come back into the fray. And one of those now is Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders now, according to Fox Sports, said this: to hear from Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys head coach or owner, is truly delightful and it's intriguing. First reported by Fox and then reported by Adam Schefter. I love Jerry and I believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and I think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, the coaches, our student body, and the community. 2 things about this. 1, Dallas does nothing normal. Incidentally, Jerry Jones in Landman, if you have not seen that scene, go back and watch it. That dude can act. But Dallas is dysfunctional as an organization. And it's been that way for a long time. And Jerry Jones is the reason why. But he does have the relationship with Deion from Deion's time with the Cowboys. And, of course, some ancillary meetings and some things that went on when Deion was out of his playing days and living in Texas. I'm sure they came across and did some things that were together. Jerry likes to make a splash. And hiring Deion would be the biggest splash of all. Of all. It would send shockwaves through the NFL. It would send shockwaves through college. And it's one of those things now when you look at how the sport as it has evolved, it makes total sense. It makes total sense because you look at what some of the reasons that Deion has said that he took the Dallas job to begin with, that he took the Jackson State job to begin with. It's to shepherd young men. There's no doubt it's to shepherd young men. Dallas has got the 12th pick in the NFL draft. Who are going to be top 12 picks in the NFL draft? Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. Could Deion take the Dallas job with the promise that they're going to do everything they can to get Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, they're not going to get Travis Hunter. Jerry is about that life. There's no doubt Jerry is about that life. But it's interesting with this quote, and this was to Adam Schefter. One thing he does not say is, I'm not going to take the Dallas job. So you can read into this how you wish, but My take on all of this, whether it be Saban with the Dolphins or now Deion with potentially the Cowboys or Bobby Petrino with the Falcons, we're still a little bitter about that. There's no good way to do this, right? There's no good way, whether you're going from the NFL to college or college to the NFL, to do this without sounding like a complete jackass. So whatever happens with Deion, don't dump it on Deion. There's no good way to approach this. The calendars just don't sync, right? But he didn't say he's not going to take it. He answered it the way that you should. I love it here. We got roots here. I love these kids. We're building something special. All of this other stuff. All of that can still be true, even if he does take the Dallas Cowboy job. It's already constructed. The foundation's already there. The enrollment's already there. The success they've had has already brought that program to a point where he promised it could go when he got that job, when Rick George hired him. So he's already accomplished what, for the most part, what he's set to accomplish at Colorado. So now could he move on and potentially coach his son or potentially coach Travis Hunter or the other son, Shiloh? People forget about him. He could probably play in the NFL too. Yeah, that sounds like something Deion would do. He already brought them along once from Jackson State. Why not do it again? But would it work? I think it would. Deion connects with people. Deion connects with 18 to 22-year-old kids. Professional football players really aren't that far off from that age. And they know what Colorado did. They talk to people. They talk to folks on their team that came up behind them. They have brothers. They have sisters. They know all about what Deion can do. And he can relate to them better than any of these other coaches out there. Any of them. Any of them. So, yeah, I think it would work at Dallas. I know that it's been said about Dallas a lot, and I hate Dallas. I hate the Cowboys. But I think it would work. I think it would be a bold move, but I think it would work. But what about Colorado? Where does Colorado go from here? The answer is they would have options that you wouldn't believe. What Deion did to that program is rekindle the fire, recapture the magic of the late 80s and throughout the 90s. It's a destination school now. It's not a destination school because of Deion, at least solely because of Deion. It's a destination school because you can win at a high level. The facilities are there. The support is now there. And all of that, that's all that they needed to go from a one-win team to a bowl team. So, yeah, it'd be challenging for that administration. But I think the groundwork has been laid for that program. And I think what it did more than anything else is show that being bold in the hiring process can go a long way, especially at a place like Colorado, where you are fighting a little bit of an uphill battle when compared to some other schools around the country. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Mario Cristobal, because Mario Cristobal is in a no-win situation at all. He can't win in a situation. They tried to back him into a corner. They kind of did a pretty good job, and he answered it really the only way you can. So what does this mean for Miami? We'll talk about it next. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. Attending the national championship game is an incredible experience. I've done it as a fan. I've done it a lot as a media member. It is unbelievable, and it brings fans together like never before. Remember the excitement of past playoff games this year? You want to make new memories? You can do that with Game Time for the national championship game. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to get a concert, go to a concert here at Truist Park, And look, we had some friends who were like, hey, you don't have tickets, but, they're pretty cheap. You can probably get in, especially after it starts, after the opening act goes on, they'll drop. It's exactly what I did. It's exactly what my wife and I did. We went to Game Time, got a great deal, hung out all night. It was a Luke Bryan concert. I like Bro Country. If you don't, you're wrong. It's good. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so let's talk about Mario Cristobal. Look, Cam Ward got ripped to shreds for sitting out the second half of the Pop Tarts Bowl. And of course, it became just one of the wildest bowl games of the year. Miami had the ball late with a chance to win. Cam didn't go back in, and suddenly he became a lightning rod for criticism. And I get it. I understand it. In a situation like that, you want to go out in style with your boys. The second half is not more. If you play in the second half, you're not more susceptible to injury than you are in the first half or at practice or at fall camp. This whole idea of sitting out to protect yourself during a game is bizarre to me. You practiced, you played. Why suddenly are you bailing in the second half? I don't get it in terms of health. And obviously to get the record, sure. But Mario Cristobal was asked about that whole process yesterday, and he called it BS. He actually used the not safe for work, not safe for podcast version, but he fought back and he defended his dude. I guarantee you he's lying. I guarantee you he was furious about it. Maybe he knew about the plan going. Oh, no, of course he knew about the plan going in. But when they showed Cam Ward on the sidelines as Miami was about to receive the kickoff, I think there was about a minute and change to go. And Cam's just sitting there yucking it up. I promise you Mario Cristobal was furious and tried to change Cam's mind. But he's got to defend his guy, right? He's got to defend his guy. So again, no-win situation for Mario Cristobal. I think he did a good job, but this is a stain on Cam, obviously, because he's been ripped to shreds. We've talked about him on College Sports Sunday, Tom Luganbill and myself. We talked about it for 2 straight weeks. I mean, it was a big story. But I actually credit Mario Cristobal for standing up to Cam. When you do that, when you stand up for your guy in a situation that is completely untenable, portal guys see that. Recruits hear about that. High school players remember that. So it is all about recruiting. It's all about recruiting. And again, Mario hated that. I did the Joe Biden whisper. I apologize. Mario was, I guarantee you, so furious about that. I don't have that directly from him, but that's it. But we're here about Miami. Let's talk a little bit more about Miami. One thing I hate about this day and age is that when somebody big transfers somewhere else, we talk about the dollar value for way too long. Why don't we talk about Carson Beck with the Canes? What can he do with Miami? I've been extremely critical of Carson Beck. I mean, extremely critical because he was a liability. He was a liability. There's no doubt about that, whether it was pressure on himself, which I do think is part of it, or play calling, or just his inability to throw a change up. All of that was there. Can he be successful at Miami? Yes, because I think part of the reason he was so frustrated was that he put too much pressure on himself, and he didn't have a plan B. So he tried to be plan B. He didn't have a rushing attack to work off of. He didn't have any receivers. Obviously, Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky are not Brock Bowers. And Dylan Bell is not Ladd McConkey. Arian Smith is not Ladd McConkey. We all saw that. So when this team started to come together, I think Carson realized, hey, for this thing to work, he's going to have to take chances, a lot of them. And he was unable to succeed in that regard. That is on him a little bit because great quarterbacks find ways to do it. They find ways to win games by themselves. Part of that was on Mike Bobo because he knew he couldn't gear down and rely on the run when things weren't going well because the running game didn't work anyway. And yet we're sitting here talking about Carson Beck and his girlfriend and $3 million and where he's going to park his Lambo and all that other stuff. Look, I get it. Like, whatever, it's South Beach. He's going to have, he's one of a lot of people that have Lambos down there. But I think in a different situation with the coaching staff that he actually has connections, not with just from an offensive coordinator standpoint, but down throughout the assistant coaching roster, that he can actually recapture that magic. Is he an NFL quarterback? No. I don't think Carson Beck is going to be a successful NFL quarterback. Straight up, I do not think he's got that in him. Can he be a successful college quarterback? Can he lead his team to a national championship if they've got the weapons around him? Yes. Just look at the guys in this national championship game. Will Howard, Riley Leonard. Is Carson Beck comparable to those guys? Maybe not this year. Could he be moving forward? Yeah. Miami's offensive, the players that have left, the depletion of that roster, that's concerning. But I have no doubt in my mind that with the right players around him, he will take the pressure off of himself enough to be successful. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Carson Beck at Miami. It's very comparable to Spencer Rattler. When Spencer Rattler was, I think, unfairly criticized at Oklahoma. It seems like everybody wanted him to be Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray, and he's not that guy. He still was actually very successful at Oklahoma. He goes to South Carolina and just absolutely kills it, gets drafted, and obviously towards the end of the season with the Saints, things didn't go very well, but are they supposed to go well when you're thrust into that situation? No, of course not. It's a very comparable situation, I think, in an easier conference with better players to help him out. It's going to be fun to see. We'll take a break. When we come back, is Dabo for real? Dabo is for real. He's proving it yet again. Let me tell you about Wayfair. With my wife and our house, Wayfair is a big part of our life. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. Let me tell you, we got a hot tub from Wayfair. This is probably 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. It's one of those plastic hot tubs. On Way Day, it was like 60% off. Still use it. I mean, unbelievable deal. I tried a hot tub. Full hot tub. It was easy to assemble, too. It was fantastic. Give your home a refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Okay, so Dabo Swinney has been criticized for a long time. No transfer portal, against the NIL, too loyal to assistants. A lot of that is legitimate, right? It's the same thing that Nick Saban fought against when fastball offenses came into existence. I remember Nick Saban and Brett Bielema lobbying in a big, big way for a 10-second rule, which means you can't take a snap until at least 10 seconds ran off the play clock. At the same time, Nick Saban was building a no-huddle offense. And we didn't know it, honestly. 2014, I remember sitting in the press box at the Georgia Dome. Bama was playing West Virginia, and it was either Blake Sims or Jake Coker. Nobody knew who was going to start. Turns out Blake Sims got the start. Lane Kiffin in his first game, bam, no huddle. Tempo. You're like, wait, what happened? That's what Dabo's doing here. It's exactly what Dabo's doing here. He doesn't like all this stuff. That's fine. A lot of coaches don't like it. Dabo's been more public about it, which he probably would take back if he could. But now, instead of settling for continuity on his staff, which started to change a couple of years ago when he hired Garrett Riley to run the offense, he fires Wes Goodwin, going after Tom Allen at Penn State. Tom Allen, the guy that helped Penn State get to a national semifinal. Tom Allen, a former head coach. Tom Allen, who has roots in the SEC as a coordinator. This is a very, very big deal for Dabo. He is swinging for the fences now. He's going after targeted players who he feels like can help his roster, supplementing them with who he already has, convincing his team, his players that this is the right way, getting his kind of guys, and swinging for the fences from a coaching perspective too. It was a little late. Yeah, sure. It happens. Stubbornness exists all over the place. I'm stubborn. Family's stubborn. I want things to be the way I want them in every aspect of my life, every aspect of your life. You feel the same way. It's not realistic. Dabo has swallowed his pride. Dabo understands that things have changed and he needs to adapt. Now think about this. What happens when this whole thing comes together? With Cade Klubnik back, with a better offensive line, with a better defensive staff, with really good offensive weapons. This Clemson team made the playoff this past year. I don't think it was a fluke. Obviously, they won the ACC. That's the only reason they got in. But they didn't really find their stride until the middle of the season anyway. It ain't going to be a fluke anymore. Clemson is going to be the class of the ACC next year and beyond because you have awoken a monster. Tyler from Spartanburg, calling in a couple years ago, has awoken a monster. Dabo seems pissed, and Dabo's doing something about it. All the while keeping the foundation for his program the same, going after his kind of guys. That was the reason Clemson was successful. Dabo didn't necessarily go for the 5 stars just because they're 5 stars. He always had classes 6 to 10, whatever. But they were his guys. They were Christian Wilkins. There were guys along that offensive line that cared about Clemson. Deshaun Watson had been committed to Dabo for 3 years. You can take the stuff that happened in the NFL, put it in a different spot. But when Deshaun Watson signed with Clemson, it was a signal to everybody that, you know what? This dude's buying in. He's been back in this program for 3 years. I'm going to do it too. That was the mix. That was the secret sauce. And Dabo's getting it back right now. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Appreciate you checking out the show. Got some big things popping. You'll hear about that in a few days, maybe a week. Got a lot of big things. So we'll tell you about that. Until then, have a great Tuesday. Talk to you Wednesday.